The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Illinois. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show. It's amazing how people keep up with this show. We've had to do the last couple of months, we've had to do a replay, though the information doesn't change much. It might be with the new tax laws coming out, but we actually had people who contacted us and wanting to know why Kevin's show wasn't live. Hey, once in a while, we are probably one of the few shows out there that does a live show. Most people do a show and they edit everything. Ours is live. So if we screw up, you're going to see it also. Let me welcome back. I'm so glad to see him, attorney Kevin Benjamin. Good afternoon, Kevin.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
That was so strange how people knew that the show, it wasn't your show. Your show wasn't live because I can't tell the difference, except when we do replays, they're not on YouTube, but they're on all the other ones. But I am so glad to have you back. You know, everybody is asking with this new bill about how it's going to change the tax laws. But first of all, tell people about Benjamin Legal Services and Noble Tax Relief.
Well, basically, I'm an attorney, and we handle a lot of bankruptcy, foreclosures, defense, litigation, debt restructuring, like Chapter 7, 13, and 11 are the restructuring ones, business, but also sometimes you restructure taxes. And then the Noble Tax Relief, and even it's from Benjamin Legal Services, because it's me doing it. We represent individuals or businesses in a tax resolution before the IRS and tax controversy, you call it. I'm also a member of the U.S. Tax Court if that was ever needed. I could handle that for somebody as well. And we basically just get people out of debt and save their properties and assets and stuff like that, get the IRS off their back.
I want to tell everybody that Kevin's office is in Chicago. He handles all of Illinois. Actually, when it comes to tax preparation, he can just about handle your case from anywhere. But we just got our first text already, and a gentleman in Cook County wants to know if I keep hearing that the IRS is really coming after people who are behind on their IRS payments, that they're behind more than ever. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. Absolutely. They're going full force. There's a lot of collection letters out. I have a lot of people with federal tax liens now. Sometimes now they're starting to take the tax liens and do levies, come after the assets. Yeah, they're going full force. Absolutely.
Well, I got to tell people, and I'm not just saying this because Kevin's one of our great experts, and Kevin's been with us for a long time. I want to tell people, please don't take this the wrong way, but you're a fool to go up against the IRS by yourself. I mean, when you have a firm like Benjamin Legal Services, that you no longer have to talk to the IRS anymore, that Kevin handles that for you. And what I've learned over the years with Kevin, he is really honest and upfront with you. You might not hear what you want to hear, but he's going to be honest with you. And Kevin, I see so many of these national companies with the celebrities endorsing them, and you read the comments from their clients, and most of them say, once I paid my money, they rarely got back with me.
I hear that all the time. I had one guy a couple weeks ago. He was actually he called me, right? So advertising, free consultation, all that kind of stuff. So then he had an attitude a little bit, and I was just talking to him like, "You call me." Let's try to see what's going on. He wanted. And he paid 3 times. And the funny thing was, at the end of the conversation, I'm like, I don't know why you're calling me. You're like trying to check me out.
Right.
You come see me if you want to, but otherwise, so I'm the local guy. I'm the really attorney. I'm like down the street basically. And you have questions about me, but anybody on the radio who has a call center and an 800 number, you're just throwing thousands of dollars at them. So it's amazing. But they're call centers and they're trained to get your money and talk to you. They're good because I have people that are so confused when they call, and sometimes people call me, they're calling somebody else. Sometimes they're panicking. If you're not taking the call right away, they're calling somebody else, and they get back to somebody, and they're like, "Oh, I just signed up with someone on the radio, right?" But they didn't. You know what I'm saying? So they're like doing this little review thing or whatever. Takes some weeks. They can't do anything. So they didn't. I asked them, "Have you talked to somebody besides the receptionist or the marketing person? You didn't talk to anybody like me over there. And don't give me their team of lawyers and enrolled agents crap." I'm saying, come on.
Yes.
So I'm the head guy, and I'm the one to handle your case, and you're gonna have my direct line and a secure message portal, and uploads, and you can see me. We could Zoom, whatever we got to do. I'm a real person, and that's how it works. But they're powerful. These are good salespeople. They spend a lot of money. They hire these call centers. They're trained to get your money, and it works. But then, once you do, what are they doing? I have some people.
I was shocked.
One guy
I
was
was
paying
shocked,
someone for
Kevin.
17 months. Like, you've been paying them for 17 months, and they don't even call you back.
Wow.
And what are you doing? So it's it's amazing. So yeah,
You know what? Also, something else amazes me, and I know you're not going to admit this, Kevin, but I got to tell you, sometimes Kevin knows more than these agents do. These IRS agents do.
oh yeah, I mean, I don't know everything, but I know a lot of stuff. But oftentimes, a lot of these people, they're new. They're new hires. They don't know anything. And now, under the Biden administration, a lot of them are getting hired, right? And then now under Trump, a lot of them are getting fired. But even the ones that were hired, they're all new. So they don't know anything. Not know anything, but they don't always know.
See, I told you he's going to be humble about it. But you got to admit, Kevin, you've been doing this for so long, and a lot of times you know more than the agent you're
Oh
talking
yeah, I
to.
mean, I'm experienced. I know what's going on, and it depends on like what department you're in. You can be calling automatic question service, but even they may even have an agent. They don't always know everything either. So you got to know the internal revenue manual and the code, and how things work, and depending on what section you're in, who you're dealing with. Sometimes you just get somebody else on the phone.
Well, we're getting a lot of texting, Kevin, and
Okay.
they're all basically the same. People asking about this big, beautiful bill. What's that going to do to taxes?
Who knows? We're still getting a handle on that. They're just, I don't know. I can't really tell you everything. There's so many things that we're still going over with our tax groups. So what's going on? The
Well,
commissioner.
they mostly want to know, Kevin, is like this guy here says, and thank you for writing us. He said, all I hear is the new tax laws are only going to help the rich. What about the poor and the middle class? Will the new tax laws
Yeah,
help us too?
yeah. No, that's all political stuff. People here, um, either getting tax cuts for the rich. You can spin it any way you want to.
Right.
So, but are they ever going to go try to look out for the lower income person? No, because they just, who's paying them, who's giving them the
Right.
money to run for office, who's making campaign contributions. The system is not designed to help you. It's not. So,
Well, Kevin, we're going to start off. Kevin does both IRS and bankruptcy, and we kind of break up the show. The first part of it is IRS, and the second half will be bankruptcy.
mhm.
Kevin, what are some of the misconceptions that taxpayers have about the IRS collections?
That they some think they're your friend, which is amazing. Because I people come to me like, oh, I'm on an installment agreement. Well, first of all, why are you calling me? But they're actually not. They're just making voluntary payments. The IRS will always take your money. Or they're telling me, well, I talked to someone. I went on the IRS site and I just filled out this form. Okay, great. They're not calling me. So it's like they're not. The IRS is not looking out for you. Okay, they'll always take
Right.
your payment. And they'll always let you make payments. And you can even do your own installment agreement, but it doesn't mean it's a good one. So they're not going to. I have some people that I ask them, well, why didn't you even try an offer and compromise? They're like, what's that? Well, the IRS agent didn't mention that to you. Whoever you called on the phone. I mean, it's like you could do it yourself. You could be your own lawyer, your own doctor, your own plumber, or you have a professional help you. But also, they think that the IRS is going to put you in jail. There is a criminal division, right? But you got to be doing something bad to be in the criminal division. If you're just owing money, then you just owe money. You have to. The IRS will settle for the reasonable collection of potential. And that could be an installment agreement, it could be an offer and compromise, it could be a partial pay installment agreement. There's programs called currently non-collectible where they'll get off your back for 6 months to 2 years. Effective tax administration. There's penalty abatements. So people are afraid to even ask, but you may qualify for something. But if you don't answer the phone or return the mail, they don't know what's going on. Then why don't you have a professional who knows what they're doing to try to get into this? So also sometimes bankruptcy is an option. Sometimes they could be discharged or consolidated in a case. So there's all kinds of ways to skin a cat, so to speak. But and they're also not going to just levy you for any reason. They're not just going to come after everything. You are allowed to have assets and still do an IRS resolution with them, right? It's just like when people file bankruptcy, they think they're watching too many movies. Like you're in the street or something. No, people have jobs and they have income and they have assets. It's federal law, state exemptions. In IRS, it's really what's your income, assets after IRS standards and discounts, and does the income and assets matter? Well, if you're doing an offer and compromise, it does. If you're doing a partial pay installment agreement, it's only your income. So you may have assets. I have people call me, in 10 seconds, I tell them you don't qualify for an offer and compromise. Most people don't, But on the radio,
Wow.
I settle pennies on the dollar. You call these people on the radio, everyone's qualifies. They didn't even ask you any questions. I could ask. I had a guy just hired me. It's 10 seconds, 20 seconds. You don't qualify, but you may qualify for a partial pay installment agreement, which may be better or the same because the offer. There's a lot of equity in the paid for house and another property that's got a lot of equity and some other assets. So that counts in the formula, right, for an offer and compromise. For a installment agreement or partial pay installment agreement, it's your cash flow, more your income. So payments, how much can you afford to pay? So when we do it, we analyze you for all your options, because I don't know what the best one is until we do our numbers, right? But you got to give me the information, which some clients, everybody wants help, but help me help you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'll give you some documents and just get them to me. Some
And
people,
some of them don't give you all the information or they lie about it.
some instantly, but some it's like pulling teeth, and it's like, hey, you're paying me. I mean, I can't just.
How can you help them if you don't know the whole picture?
Yeah, exactly. And I have some people come to me that they have, they're already having, hearing officers and stuff. They panic. Some of them have to maybe just redo your tax returns. Maybe you could amend them. See, another myth, like the IRS, if you don't file your returns, sometimes they do what's called a SFR, substitute for return. They'll file it for you. It's not going to be good.
Yeah, I wouldn't think
hey,
so.
good job. You have to they did it for you for free. Great. You're going to owe a lot more than you think. So you have a lot of times the bill is huge, but maybe they just did the IRS file it for you, right? Even in bankruptcy, even sometimes in the BK cases, the IRS files a claim and my clients freak out, $27,000, and well, they did it for you. And then they have their accountant do it, and it's like $500, or nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because you just got to get it filed. So
they don't know you're right.
The IRS wants you in the system. They want you back in the system. The collection statute expiration deadline is basically 10 years from a date of assessment, and there's tolling events and exception how that works. But they usually want you back the last 6 years. They want you to be compliant. They want you to file. If you're back in the system and paying taxes, they like that. So they'll work it out with you. And people are so afraid. I have one guy I'm working on a case. He came in a couple weeks ago, and how about the last 3 years? You got to file them still. I think I'm getting a refund. They're not going to give you a resolution until you're compliant. You're still behind 3 years. So right. I can't finalize it. I can't, it's like handcuffs. You can't have it like both ways. I'm saying, you're not just going to work that out, and then you're going to, and even if you have a resolution, if you don't, if it's a partial pay, for example, or installment agreement, and you don't stay compliant, if you're self-employed with your estimated payments or your filing returns in the future, then they kick you out.
By the way, Kevin, I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but people love your stories. So anytime you got a story, people love hearing about your stories. And I had one guy said one of the stories you told was his situation exactly.
Oh, really?
But one of the things that when people try to handle this themselves, Kevin, explain all the trouble you can get yourself into with the IRS by answering questions that if you are representing them, the proper way to respond to them.
Well, exactly. I mean, oftentimes, let's say we have a meeting with the officer. I don't even want my client coming.
Yes.
So, it's like being a lawyer in court. I mean, it's not court, but it's like the same thing. You're represented, right? I'll tell you what I need. Get it to me, right? And if I want you to come in, I think it's helpful. I have you come in with me, But otherwise, I'll take care of it. That's my job, right? Otherwise, I had one person insisted on coming, and then they started thinking like, oh, what I need you for? Well,
oh my, he insisted on coming?
Yeah, because I don't know why.
Wow.
Like, well, I just get them the stuff. But I said, I got to look at the stuff first. I don't know what you're giving them.
Yeah.
You're just giving, not giving them stuff. What are you giving them? What are you doing? If you think it's just a matter of them just like asking for stuff, and then why'd you hire them? I'm saying you got to analyze things. What programs do you qualify for? What's the value of things if the assets count? What standards? What discounts could be taken? What changes in income in the future are happening? What can be liquidated? You may have an asset, but maybe it's really not, a liquidable thing. So all these little things that you put into the formula, right? See, people don't think on the radio, hey, we settle, we, negotiate. You don't negotiate. Hey, Mr. IRS, I'm gonna give you 12 cents on the dollar. No, it's a formula. It's like, here is the reasonable collection potential over, say, 72 months, right? And in this example, right? That's the number. If the number is 10 grand, then it's 10 grand. If you owe 100 grand, if I was doing an offer and compromise, you got 10 cents on the dollar. If you owed 20 grand, it's half on the dollar. If you owe 10 grand, it's 100%. It's still 10 grand. You know what I'm saying? So you're not negotiating a percentage. You're negotiating what the number is. That's why some people, like I have people owe a couple millions. Like, I can never pay it, and it's all wrong. They say maybe it is. I don't know, but
yes,
big number. How are you going to pay it? Well, you're not, unless you do something criminal. You know what I'm saying, you're going to pay. People had a business, they're making money. Now they don't. It's like, so that's why you're getting the pennies on the dollar. You owe so much more, more money. But they'll settle for, if you qualify, for the reasonable collection number. So if it's 30 grand and you owe $1 million, it's still gonna be 30 grand. It's not gonna be $1 million. It's gonna go away. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to say. So people don't get that, and they're afraid to call the IRS. How am I going to pay it? You're not. That's why you're going through me. But you want someone to represent you, so the IRS knows you're responding. And why can't you pay it? Actually, and maybe it's a currently non-collectible for right now. But some people think that means, I don't have to pay. Well, that's just for right now, and you got to keep, they keep reviewing it because of it. I mean, if it's a really hardship right now, they would back off. But now they know here's why. Okay. Well, then they'll say, I'll review it in 6 months for up to 2 years. Is the hardship gone? So, if you can't, if paying them or them taking something from you, you can't eat and pay your rent, that's a hardship. So that's not going to happen. So they will let you live, because if you're dead, you're not going to pay taxes anymore.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Or you're not going to have offspring who are eventually going to be paying taxes. So they want you. They're not, the devil like everyone thinks. Some people are, but it's in any business. I'm saying, but it's really just business. It's really how it is. And they don't. They're the government. They're getting paid. Their salaries, whatever. Some people are working at home, bifurcating. I could tell because they even their hours. If it's an officer,
right.
They're working certain days or half a day. Then they give you a cell number. It's like, okay, I mean, I don't care, but whatever works. But one hand doesn't always know what everyone else is doing, and you got to make sure the person that you're dealing with is complying with the code and the manual, because they could ask for anything. Doesn't mean that they can. Doesn't mean you have to give it, or things they tell you. I don't know if it was true. So that's like in anything. I'm saying so. And it's powerful. I as a lawyer, every day, Sunday, someone's calling me. Someone comes in yesterday, it's a client, and it's like, everyone, answering questions, but so everyone you talk to always seems to know what they're doing, except the guy who you hired who knows what he's doing. Because I give him an answer. Well, someone else says, then what are you asking me for? Who your teacher, your kid's kindergarten teaper? I had a client yesterday. Oh, they're going to turn off my water and all this stuff. No, they're not. They're telling you no, they're not. Okay. No. She said, who's she? The receptionist. When you call, why are you calling them? I'll take care of it. I'm saying, yes, sir. I'll take care of it. But, someone's reading a computer screen or just telling you something. But I know what. And someone did that. It's a discharge violation. You get some money out of that. Same as the IRS. They're not your financial advisor. They're not telling you what to do. They'll tell you whatever is good for the government. Because if you keep just getting pushed around, why would they stop? They can ask you things they're not entitled to, or say things, but if no one's calling them on it, that's why I have a professional representing you.
I don't know if this is a fair question for you. We just got a text from Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to know, is every state offering compromise? Because I don't think our state does.
I don't know.
Okay.
I know some states do. I don't know all the state laws. I know the IRS does. I do represent some people in some states, but not every state. If it's state law, it's a different license. I'm a member of the U.S. Tax Court, though, and I'm also a federal lawyer, so I could do the IRS because that's my designation. I do some
Also,
states. The states are actually harder. I'm not aware of any. I'm not aware of any that don't.
So
really.
here's another one that we get a lot of questions on. People want to know who work out of their house, how much they can write off.
Yeah. So what I do is I do
as an office.
Right. So I do tax resolution and tax controversy. I'm an attorney. I'm not a CPA. So I kind of know the answer because my dad's my CPA, and I ask the same questions.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't want to answer tax. I'm not a CPA. I can't give accounting advice.
Okay.
And that's not what I do. I mean, if the IRS is on your back, I could resolve the issues, but I don't do your tax returns.
Okay. What another one? What if you don't have the money to pay the IRS?
Okay, so that's interesting because I have one telling me that now. I don't work. I have no money. Yeah, but you got equity and you can work, and you're full of crap. So it's like don't think that because I can't pay you, but that's what the currently non-collectible is for. If it's really valid, you're saying you can get a currently non-collectible status and get a little reprieve, right? Or you telling me you don't have like $100 a month, $50 a month, because a partial pay could be as low as that. So
Wow.
don't tell me you have no money. Now you may currently you're unemployed. It'd be a hardship. So that could be get you that status. But if you get that status in their system, they're going to be off your back. They're not going to be leaning you. They're coming back. They're not going away forever. They're going to revisit it, but they're not going to be like leaving your accounts and all that kind of stuff. And I could help get you a currently non-collectible status. But no money, that's a general question. Zero, or you're making money, but
Yes.
with food and rent, and so it's all relative. Also, why don't you have it? Because you're giving it away. I had someone just now a couple of weeks ago. She owes it was a couple $100,000 plus to the Illinois Department of Revenue.
Wow.
Right? And then it's like I'm going through it, and it's like, well, you have a house with a lot of equity. Then I find out you got a building paid for.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, but and you're giving your ex-husband, half the rent. Well, I have to. No, doesn't count. So you have no money because you're giving it away. That's not going to count. Okay, so you have the money, right? You just that's not a hardship. Also, if you gave the asset away, doesn't count. It still counts in the formula. You can't just give it to your son or daughter. At a house, $500,000 paid for. I don't have it anymore. Well, guess what? First of all, maybe it's coming back. Second of all, it's called a dissipation of assets. They're not going to go away. You can't just give your money away and stuff like that. And I have a lot of clients that be like, I want my daughter. I understand someone needs or whatever. That's fine, and you can help people, right? But not at the expense of the government. That's what I'm trying to say. You can't just give things. Even give people in bankruptcy. I don't have a house. I'll give a deed to my son yesterday. Well, bad news. You're losing that house now. It's coming back. So you can't just think. Just try to be smart. You know what I'm saying? Just be smart. So if you don't have a lot of money, that could be good. You make it an offer in compromise for really small, or a partial pay installment for really small amount of money, and now you're in the system and you're compliant and you're good. So don't be afraid.
Here's a question we get all the time. I keep hearing these commercials saying somebody owed, for example, 800,000 and they got off with only paying 2,000. Is that false advertising?
What happened? I'm sorry, my lights seem to have gone out.
They basically said they've seen ads. Someone owed $800,000 to the IRS, and they only ended up paying $2,000. Is that legit?
Yeah, it could be.
Wow.
That's what I was just talking about. Someone called $1 million or $2 million, or $800,000. But if your reasonable collection number is $2,000, which obviously has to be some extreme circumstances there, but it can happen. Is that person's case real? It could be. It could be BS. But yes, you're gonna. It doesn't matter how much. That's my whole point. Someone's like, I made money before. I owe money. I don't have it. I'm never going to have it. Right. So they're going to settle that debt, and you pay for pennies on the dollar, and that could be legitimate. That's why you have me or somebody else.
This is from Kyle, also in Chicago. Great show. I'm so glad I found the show. I heard an ad the other day that said the IRS can talk to your neighbors or your employer. Is that true?
Yeah, and some of those letters are going out. You got a certain amount of time where they're going to start looking for you. Yeah,
They can go to your neighbors, Kevin?
they can call family members and they can start going to your neighbors and asking certain questions.
Wow.
That yeah, they got a lot of power.
Now listen,
I got a couple of those just last week.
you
Clients,
did?
some potential clients were getting those letters. Yeah.
How embarrassing.
Well, yeah.
But you know what I also want people to know, Kevin, is some of the letters that we get, people are very embarrassed that they haven't paid their taxes. And I just want people to know you have like a no judgment zone. You don't judge anybody. This is what you do.
Me? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. This is what I do. All my clients have these issues. That's why I'm in business.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
But they don't have to be embarrassed, though.
No, people don't. It's not that maybe people have tax issues for different reasons. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes maybe you didn't pay your quarterlies, or you're independent. That's mostly a lot of independent contractors. They get in trouble, because they just spend it, and then next thing you know, I got to pay tax.
Right.
And then you have the failure to pay penalties and the failure to file penalties and the compound, and it adds up real quick. So, yeah, you could really have a mess there.
Now, first of all, give everybody your phone number and your website address.
Sure. BenjaminLaw.com, 312-853-3100. 312-853-3100, or just go to BenjaminLaw.com. All the information is there.
We're going to go into bankruptcy, and I got a great question going into bankruptcy.
Okay.
They want to know that if you owe back taxes, can you write it off in bankruptcy court?
Maybe. It's not a write-off. It's discharge or not. Is what it is. So generally speaking, federal taxes are not dischargeable unless they are. Okay. So there are exceptions.
Explain that. Explain
That's the law. There's 1,000 statutes. Every case got exceptions. So I would analyze that for you. Okay. So it's like a 7-part test. As a matter of fact, even if you're coming just for tax resolution, when I do my report to you and analyze your whole thing, I get a copy of the IRS file. I'll go over things like audit risk factors, or the CSET expiration dates, bankruptcy possible discharge dates. See, someone says I owe 40 grand, right? But my question is, for what year or years? Oh, it's 17,000 this year. 12, that's 5 years. Okay, and I mean, to you, it's 40 grand, right? But to me, I got to analyze each year to see when is the collection date expire. They can't get the money from you, or when can you file for bankruptcy if you wanted to. Maybe you don't want to. I'll just tell you when it is. Like I had someone, I did a report just a couple of days ago. I'm like, I wouldn't recommend in their case anyway, because they didn't really have to. But I just tell them basically it was like 12,000 was just off, and another 37,000 in a month or two of a couple $100,000. So it's a big chunk, right? So I just give them every year. But I mean, in their case, I wasn't recommending that anyway. I was just giving them the analysis. Because you never know. I mean, over the years, something happens. Maybe down the road, maybe you are wind up doing it. Say, but not in this case. But like when I negotiate with the IRS, which if you're making payments, which tax years can I make the payment towards? Like you call the IRS and you're just making voluntary payments. What do you think they're crediting that to? The one that's about to expire. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
You can actually send a payment in and designate it for what it should be credited to, if you were doing that. Now, in an installment agreement, maybe you're trying to get it to be credited something. Maybe they catch that and make it part of the agreement. But if you're just going solo and sending in payments, you're just rewriting the clock. Those are going to the ones that are expired last. It's just like a debt collector. They call you these debt buyers or debt collectors. Hey, no problem. Just make it. You got $5. Just make a payment. And morons do, right? Oh, here's $5. Well, great. Now the statute of limitations just got reset. You know what I'm saying? Because they couldn't sue you, next month, but now they can. They got over 10 years. So not the IRS. I'm saying. So that's why people do that. Right? So that's why you're a professional. What's the statute expiration deadline? What's the bankruptcy dischargeability dates? Can it be discharged? What are the other options? Can I have a payment made somewhere? Because maybe I'm making payments, but if they're backing off, you're making payments, but you're crediting them to something else, and then the next thing you know, these older ones are falling off. Right? That's a great strategy on that. I have someone hiring me, said she's been making payments for 3 years. Well, I looked into it. It wasn't quite 3, but it's year and a half. You know what I'm saying? But I said it's not an installment agreement. There's no installment agreement. You're just making payments.
Right.
And then
now, if you miss an installment payment, can you get back on track?
Yeah, but see, in this case, she thought just because she's making regular payments that it's an installment agreement. So she's making installment payments, but there's no agreement. It's just being credited to her oldest ones first, and they're running currently interest and all that kind of stuff, and it's going nowhere. So I told her in reality, it's not really, because if you have an installment agreement, how many, what's the amount? Is it full pay or partial pay? X dollars for what, 72, whatever you're doing, right? But for the months, that's your agreement. It's not open-ended. I just pay forever. She's like, I think I'm paying forever. Because you're going to. If you didn't call me, that's what you're going to be doing. You know what I'm saying? You're just paying forever. So they don't, but people don't know. The IRS doesn't tell them that. Oh yeah, you can make regular payment. And maybe they're backing off a little bit because you're making regular payments, but they're still got you on the interest and stuff like that. And it doesn't mean they're going to back off completely. So.
Kevin, I want people to know, especially when you do your tax relief, that everybody is different. I mean, you cannot put a price, your fee on everybody, because it's always different. So I had a guy who just wrote, he said, you always talk about Kevin being one of the best in Illinois with taxes. Does that mean his fees are the highest? And first of all, again, everybody is different. And I've been working with Kevin long enough to know he's a very fair man.
Exactly. No, thank you. Those are good questions.
Yeah.
First of all, whether I'm good or not, or thank you, but it doesn't mean what
you are.
Fee is. Because basically, thank you. If you're paying somebody, I'm not talking about me, right? If you're paying someone, and you think it's a high amount, but they're getting the job done in a faster time and better results, is that really more? I used to do. I said the partner did a lot of injury cases, and they were contingency cases, and I did them also, but he was the main guy, and that's part of the firm, right? And I had people coming in and negotiate. Well, this other company's going to do it for 25% contingency. Then go with them. Why are you more? Who said I'm more? If we're doing 33%, is that more? Well, is it?
Right.
If I get you $1 million settlement, and they get you $100,000 settlement, who's more?
Exactly.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So don't be short-sighted. But now to be more direct on the payments, there's no don't call me. Hey, I just want to know how much I don't know. I don't know who you are, what kind of case you're doing, or what kind of case you think you want. Because these people don't know. They're on Google or talking to their friends. I think I need a chapter 9. They don't know that's for government, but it's like, they don't know if they get confused about what a 7 or 13 is, or they don't know there's often compromise or a partial pay installment agreement. So also, I don't know what you're hiding. Like when people start telling me, then I got the house, then a week later, I see there's a building paid for, help me help you. You know what I'm saying? Not so some cases are also, are you in, automatic collections, or are you in the revenue officers after you? How long have you owed it for? Also, how much? Because maybe it's a smaller amount, I can get a streamlined program. I'm saying it's like, get you the same deal someone else gets, but there's less documentation. So it's easier. So it's cheaper fee. I'm saying, and someone who's owes $1 million, they've been chasing you for a year, and they got a revenue agent, an officer, and a manager's got to approve it, and all this kind of stuff, and they want documents and extra documents, and everyone's verifying. It's a lot more work. But I don't charge hourly, so I don't know what that expensive thing means. It's all value based, right? So I only charge hourly, like in Chapter 11, because I have to, because the court makes you do a timesheet and do time. But otherwise, it's just, that's why I have to analyze your case, because I may do a flat fee with you, or I may be like, if you don't know what's going on, you can retain me and we could do a monthly, because, okay, it's easy case, you think? It's over a couple months? Great. If it is, that's great, right? But if it's not over, because it winds up being not so complicated, it's going 12 more months, I'm not just doing it for. So
right. What happens if they haven't filed? Do you have to go back and refigure their back if they haven't filed, say, in the last?
I'm not a CPA. I don't file there are.
So you send them to a CPA?
Yeah. Well, so like there's like these radio people. I have our accountants are going to do. Why you have like I had a big radio one, right? Guy owes over $1 million, right? And took us months to figure out that one company never filed the return, but then 2 years later, if they fired them, they did. Then they filed one, so there's competing returns. So they couldn't resolve it. So we know. So also, if we amend or revoke, one, which obviously we want to do the one that's better. I'm saying now we got under the $1 million, different level of documentation who we're talking to, but that was a whole getting that worked out was even finding out about it, because they didn't even know someone filed. How could someone just file a return for you? They put your name on it. You know what I'm saying? So I would never have like a national company do it, or me, right? So there are people like, hey, we have our guy. You can go. I could recommend. My father's a CPA. He's got a firm. They could do things, but sometimes it could be easy. It could be someone down the street. It could be, but do a reputable company. Don't do some of these. Someone was in yesterday. I don't mention the company's name, but right away I'm like, okay, they're being sued left and right. And why did you go there? Well, my friend says they really, because they're doing the BS, ERC credit scam, and you get a nice refund, but now the IRS letter came and says, hey, these are all denied. Now you owe me money, and they're like, oh, this is not fair. Yeah, it's fair because you owe the money. Oh, it's not our fault.
It happened.
You signed it. It's your fault. Okay, but my husband's company, they screwed up on his exam. They didn't screw up on his exemptions. You choose your own exemptions. Some people are stupid, and I got a big refund at the end of the year. Well, all you're doing is giving the government a free loan. Meanwhile, you're starving those 12 months. Well, I got a big refund. What am I going to buy? Right?
Yeah.
Stupid. Or some people like, but now I owe money because they gave you a tax-free loan for the year. That's why you owe money. So you can adjust your stuff, but you give the company the numbers, how much you make, or how much is the guy making on the side? Who knows? But right. It's not the company's fault. Blame everybody. So,
Kevin,
but also, it's like if you're a W-2 person, and you can maybe even do turbo. I'm not saying everyone should be doing that. You got to get them filed. I'm saying, but if you're just a W-2 and not a lot of exemptions, it's not going to cost you a lot of money to have an accountant do it. It's an easy case, right? But you're compliant. Because you may want to be like, hey, what's it worthwhile on if they get you more money, right? Mm-hmm. But don't go for the scams that say, hey, I'm really good because I get you money, because they're putting things in your name. So right. I give you an example. Some guy called me up last week or 10 days ago, and he had a situation in Wisconsin. It was Wisconsin state. But I was talking to him, and he's like, he was doing this thing and had some company. It wasn't even a tax company. He had some agency doing his return for like 2023. He didn't do it 2024, but he had a big bill. He's like, hey, I swear this is wrong. It probably is wrong, right? So, and he's like, how much to hire you? And so someone said, how expensive? I'm like, well, in this case, it was free, because I'm like, I'm not doing it. But I said, if what you're saying is true, go to a real accountant, okay, and simply amend the returns. If you amend the returns, now it goes away. Now you don't have a tax liability.
Right.
And then, if they reject it or something, you can come to me if they want you. But, once you amend it, it goes away, at least for right then and there. So there's nothing to resolve. And in this guy's situation, I'm like, I bet he's probably right. Because there was some like state aid. It was this crazy thing who was doing his return. I don't know what kind of scam they're trying to get into or getting this person into. But he was really, actually, I just followed up with the guy today. He's not even a client. I said, you don't need me. So I actually sent him a message today. I said, are you good? Because I said also, just paying someone a couple $100 to actually do it right and solve you of all that money,
Right.
so dumb. I want to pay. Well, then pay the IRS money that you don't owe or you don't think you owe. You know what I'm
Kevin,
saying?
I want you to hear this letter before we go off the air. It sounds like a young man. He said, I am really enjoying your show. I trust Kevin. Kevin, got to stop having your cousins call here. But no, no, he said, I owe about $15,000 to $20,000. My friend told me that's not enough money to file bankruptcy. What would you tell me if I came into your office owing $10,000 to $15,000? Should I file bankruptcy, or are there better routes?
Well, this
That's
is
a
an
good question.
example of what we were talking about before. Stop talking to your buddy.
Yeah,
Right? I heard. It's not, there's no limit or
right.
minimum amount.
Everybody's a lawyer, right?
Yeah, I mean, if someone comes to me, I look at their income, I'm like, it's not worth it because you have money, or asset, or could be easily resolved. Because there's different kinds of bankruptcy. The Chapter 7, the one everyone says, getting out of debt, that's only every 8 years. So, but $10,000 or $15,000 to one person is $1 million, and somebody else is like, just pay it tomorrow. I'm saying, so it's all relative. What are they doing? Someone garnishing you? I got a single mom with 3 kids, and someone's suing her, and I start, God, she can't, But maybe you could do a 13, but you could do a Chapter 7, get rid of it because depends what it is. So to answer the question directly, if you called me and said that, or sat down in front of me and said that, I would say I have no idea until I start getting into your situation, right? Because if you're thinking about filing, here's the best thing. People go to cocktail parties and I don't file bankruptcy. Ask your friend what you should do. Pay it.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, Kevin, I'm gonna settle my bills. I'm gonna do. Oh yeah, okay. That takes money to settle. Well, how much I need? Well, it doesn't work that way. You can negotiate with creditors, and then now we got a deal. Oh no, I want that money. Money talks, right? You know what I'm saying? But it's and even then, they want to see that you don't have it. They don't just, I'm going to file bankruptcy if I don't do it. You still got to show people, give people a reason to take a settlement, whether it's the IRS or a debt collector or someone else.
See, this is why people trust your honesty.
Yeah.
You are upfront. Might not be what they want to hear, but at least it's the truth.
I tell you what you want to hear, but don't yell at me. Someone called me the other day. She's screaming, "Oh, it's some fraud on the foreclosure. Did they ever hear of due process?" Yeah, I heard due process, lady. You know what I'm saying? The house already sold. I even looked at the case online for her. I'm like, you're full of crap. You're like, I got. Like, hey, you're calling me. Why are you yelling at me? I didn't do this to you. And I'm not going to represent you because you have no case, and you think you know everything because you went on Google and you think you're smarter than me. But you're not.
Hey, Kevin's going to be back again with us next month. We are also going to be running the show again in a week. Kevin, tell people again how they can get a hold of you.
BenjaminLaw.com or 312-853-3100. Give me a call or go on the webpage and put your contact information in, and I'll call you.
Make sure you tell them that you heard it on the Ask the Expert show.
Yeah.
It does help. Hey, Kevin, it's so glad to have you back. I love your knowledge, but also love your humor too.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, bye-bye.
That's attorney Kevin Benjamin. That's going to do it for us today. For those of you who said hello to me, hello back to you. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.